my name is Lucy Ash, and for my grand narrative assignment, I will be sharing the gospel with an individual from Romanian culture. The story of the gospel begins in the beginning of time when God formed man and woman in his image. Now, sin had not entered the world yet. God placed this man and woman, Adam and Eve, in a garden where he would dwell among them. He gave them free will because God did not want them to be mindless. He was gracious and he wanted a relationship with them. Now, God provided them with fruit to eat, and he only had one rule, which was not to eat from the tree in the middle of the garden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This tree would allow them to differentiate between right and wrong. Now, one of God's angels grew very jealous of him. He ended up hating everything good that God had made. He hated everything that God loved. Now, this angel was called Satan. God banished Satan, and Satan ended up coming to the earth in the form of a snake to help deceive Adam and Eve. Now, Satan convinced Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and from her one action, from her one disobedience towards God, it cursed the whole entire world into sin and death. Through this chaos, God had a plan to deliver mankind from death. For thousands of years, God had guided his people. He gave them laws to keep them safe. He had sacrifices in place so that when they sinned, they would sacrifice, and they would, like an animal, and they would be redeemed in his eyes. Now, God had made a promise. Throughout all of history, there had been prophecies about a Messiah to come. The Messiah meaning a savior who would save the people from, like, the madness, the chaos. When God sent his son, Jesus, people expected him to be, like, in the form of a great king coming to rescue them. But he came from a humble family in a very humble way as a baby born in a stable. Now, Jesus, as he grew up, he lived a completely sinless life. He never did anything wrong. He taught people who God was like, who God is. He helped better people's understanding of God's laws. And Jesus treated everybody with love. He treated everybody with respect, no matter what their background was, who they were. Now, eventually, God's people hated Jesus. They thought that he was being blasphemous towards the Lord's name because he was claiming to be God. And they were expecting him to be a king. He's just a guy. And so they got the government to crucify Jesus. They beat him, they crucified him, and he died. Now, Jesus was placed in a tomb where he lay dead, and on the third day, he came alive again, ultimately defeating death and sin and Satan. He stayed with his followers for a little while before departing from the earth back to God with a promise for everybody all around the world, for anybody that believes in him, that he would come back and he would rescue us from sin and death, that he would create a new world just like how it was when he first created it, the same design that it was supposed to have. People who do not believe in Jesus would ultimately be punished forever, but the people who do would be able to live with Jesus forever in harmony and peace. Now, that is what is so important about the gospel story, is Jesus is willing to fight after anybody because of how much he loves you. He doesn't care where you come from. He doesn't care your background. He doesn't care your ethnicity. He doesn't care what you've done in your past. All he wants is for you to come back to him, because Jesus wants to spend eternity with you. Thank you.